The Spanish Grand Prix was more proof that Fernando Alonso is not done just yet. He was forced to start last on the grid, but that didn't stop him from scoring points. So what happened with Alpine's engine that put him at the back? And what did he do at the Monaco Grand Prix that has caused some people to call for the circuit to be cut? Plus, what was Ricciardo's strong message to the McLaren team? Stay tuned for all of this and more. First up, home field advantage. Qualifying did not go well for Fernando Alonso at the Spanish Grand Prix. He could only manage to slot in 17th after a chaotic session that saw him miss a final run in Q1. Because Alpine changed his internal combustion engine for the 4th time already this season, he was relegated to the back. During the race, though, he quickly made up places and ended up finishing in P9. This was just 2 places behind his teammate, Esteban Ocon, who had started the race 8 places ahead of him. It was just another reminder that the 40-year-old has still got it. And at the next race in Monaco, the 2-time world champion frustrated Lewis Hamilton by running significantly off the pace. He was in P7. He knew that he couldn't catch up to Lando Norris, so instead decided to save his tires. This meant that at times he was driving between 3 and 4 seconds slower than the pace of the leaders. Hamilton was stuck behind him and just couldn't find a way through. When asked after the race about it, Alonso said, "Not my problem." Then, he almost clinched the fastest lap towards the end of the race, before Norris swooped in and stole it before the end of the race. Alonso said that it was part of the strategy that Alpine had discussed and that they needed to save the tires to avoid pitting again. But I'm sure he enjoyed blocking the path of his ex-McLaren teammate Lewis Hamilton in the process. And now, old beef. Old rivalries die hard, and ex-driver Martin Brundle thinks that the beef between Hamilton and Alonso may have reignited. But what exactly went down between the two of them way back then? Hamilton was in his rookie year and got promoted to McLaren in 2007. He was with a competitive team in a competitive car, but unfortunately, he also had to deal with a competitive teammate. And Fernando Alonso is about as competitive as they come. At the time, he was the reigning world champion for 2 years running. Then when Hamilton joined the team, everything changed. On Hamilton's first race in Formula 1, he achieved a podium at the Australian Grand Prix. Then it was a string of 4 second places in a row before his first win in Canada. From the start, it was clear that Lewis was a big talent. Alonso and Hamilton traded blows the entire season while the tension in the team built up. In an infamous incident at the Hungarian Grand Prix, Alonso blocked Hamilton in the pits to try and sabotage his qualifying time. And according to one F1 journalist, Alonso was almost always angry about Lewis's performance. That season was a disaster for McLaren, who were disqualified from the Constructors' Championship for the so-called Spygate and ended up losing the Drivers' Championship to Kimi Räikkönen by 2 points. That was enough for Alonso, and he left the team at the end of the year for Renault. That year would be Hamilton's first world championship, and it's hard to imagine that Alonso has gotten over it. Coming up next, how much longer can Alonso keep going? Plus, what was Ricciardo's X-rated message in response to his boss's criticism? So don't go anywhere. Still not done. But anyone who thinks that Alonso is done driving hasn't been paying attention. Earlier this year, he said that he plans to stay in the sport for at least another 2 years. And this week, he said that if a spot opened up at a top team, then he would take it. He made clear that it doesn't matter if it's alongside a #1 driver, he would take it. He said, "There is always the hope that one year you will have the package. I still feel competitive, and I'm fast. There is no denying that he's fast. Even though he's only scored 10 points this season, he is rarely far behind his teammate Esteban Ocon. Keep in mind that Ocon is 15 years younger than Alonso. The problem for Alonso now is that his contract is ending this year, and there is an eager youngster ready to take his place. Australian Oscar Piastri is part of the Renault Academy and is a hot property right now. He has won Formula Renault Euro Cup, Formula 3, and Formula 2, and Alpine will have to make a move soon if they don't want to lose him. This season, they sent him to be a reserve driver for McLaren, but he might be getting impatient, and there are other possibilities out there. Ralf Schumacher has said that Piastri would be a perfect choice to replace Nicholas Latifi if the Canadian were to exit the sport. When talking about Piastri getting a spot in F1, Schumacher said, "If he doesn't deserve it, who does?" But the way things are going, Piastri might have to wait for Alonso to retire first. Time for a change. Alonso might not be the only driver to have his seat at risk in the coming years. The man with the biggest target on his back right now is Daniel Ricciardo. When he joined the team in 2021, both parties had big ambitions. Ricciardo wanted to fight to get back his glory days in Red Bull, and McLaren wanted an experienced driver that could deliver them results. But both sides have been disappointing. After a shocking start to the season, McLaren have found their feet and even scored a podium with Lando Norris in Imola. For Ricciardo, it's been a different story. His highest place finish was P6 in Australia, and that was his only point-scoring result of the season so far. And if he wasn't feeling bad enough, in a rare public shaming, McLaren CEO Zak Brown had some brutal words for Ricciardo. Talking about their partnership, he said, "Short of Monza and a few races, it has not met his or our expectations of what we were expecting." Some people think that this was going a little too far. World champion Jenson Button said, "This kind of public criticism from your team boss can be really damaging damaging for a driver's mentality. Ricciardo himself responded by saying that he won't go down without a fight. Maybe that's why he wrote FEA on his helmet in Monaco, which is an acronym for F them all. Ricciardo has said that he was giving it his all and that he was hoping to score some points soon. He also admitted that he is getting used to disappointing results and is now better able to handle them. Next, the chosen one. What isn't making Ricciardo's life any easier is his young teammate Lando Norris. He has been the golden boy of McLaren for some time now, and for good reason. Between the titans of Ferrari, Red Bull, and McLaren, Norris has managed to score some impressive results. He has scored 6 podiums in his time with McLaren, and last year he finished ahead of Charles Leclerc in the standings. That's not bad for driving in a midfield team, and that's why McLaren secured him for another 4 years with a contract worth almost $100 million. Former F1 team owner Eddie Jordan thinks that Norris is the main reason that Ricciardo is not performing. He said, "Lando is destroying him mentally, physically, and on the track, and when you have that kind of scenario inside a team, it affects you." Ouch. And it seems that everyone has something to say about the situation. World champion Jacques Villeneuve said that Ricciardo is now just a liability for the team. He is still taking a big salary and isn't delivering any results. Villeneuve said that Zach Brown was already looking at what kind of clauses are in the contract and how he could get rid of Ricciardo. That means that he probably doesn't have long left once they can figure out exactly how to replace him without losing too much more money. Villeneuve said that it's a harsh reality of Formula One. Is this the way that Ricciardo's career will end? It would certainly be heartbreaking for his many fans, but there's no denying that he hasn't been performing. Do you think that Ricciardo deserves to be kicked out of the team, or could he still bounce back? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.